Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in to The Medium by Design. This is another installment from my favorite Dolores Cannon. Now, what I did last week, this is the Monday before Thanksgiving 2021, but last week I spent numerous sittings with her. I could only take so much at a time. I could only write so much at a time, but I knew I wasn't finished. So then another day I would get up and be like, let's continue. So that's how this is going to read. It's a beautiful, beautiful writing about what's happening with us. And she gets a little bit practical, so you'll see that. So we'll start. Let's get right into it. So, of course, I did the typical intro. I was sitting and I was rereading my other Dolores Cannon messages because I have to go over this stuff. And she even said this in her conferences. We can't remember what we get, right? And this is where we're very parallel. We're getting these downloads. She got them through other people. I'm getting them directly. And, you just have to either keep going over it until it integrates. And as she explains, she integrates and then she wrote books. She compiled the information and then she wrote books. And I don't know if books are in my future or not, although they say they are. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm hearing yes, they are. I haven't been really motivated to write a book. I'm motivated to do this with you guys on YouTube. We'll see what my next motivation is, because that's how I operate. If there's no motivation and there's no energy supporting me to do something, I just can't do it anymore. That's one of the big transitions I'm going through, as going from a very willful person who willed myself to do things. Now I can't do it. There's just no energy until the energy is there. It's a very strange phenomena, I'll be honest with you. But that's how things are operating now, for me. So I invite her in, and here's what she said. Well, my fine boy, what brings us together again tonight? I know you just can't get enough of me. And she was laughing. I noticed some of the emotional waves you have gone through this year and hope you are feeling a little bit more grounded, especially more than the last few weeks. Let's continue our discussion about where things are headed and maybe a little more of humanity's past. You can see so clearly and you feel so strongly some of the incredibly intense waves flying all around the planet and affecting the behavior of those who are sensitive to these energies. I would like to clarify more deeply what the process is of handling, dealing with, and finally releasing these energies. Not unlike yourself, the need of humanity to release its pent-up emotions has grown exponentially through this COVID crisis. Luckily, those level-headed ones are continuing to take constructive actions that should prove to be continually beneficial to our race. The others that have been continually triggered, are releasing those raw emotions that have nowhere else to go. My advice to you is to, quote, stay clear. None of that has anything to do with you. Each soul on earth has its unique role and must follow through with these intense steps. I know this sounds a little possibly contrived, but I don't mean to sound that way. I simply want to give a watered-down, simplified version of what has to happen with certain individuals, and that each of us has a part in the plan. Clearing the lower emotional waves for good, clearing the lower emotions and waves for good is a part of the plan. Remember what you said on your latest video about creating a void? That is kind of what we're talking about here. If people would create a void by releasing their lower emotions, then the void would be created to experience more joy, love, peace, and creativity. Sometimes when I observe people, I wondered, do they really want peace and happiness? It definitely did not seem that way at times. I'd like to continue with more of the Earth's history and some of the otherworldly cultures that settled here and were part of our evolution, for better or worse. Now it is common knowledge that otherworldly races have had a definite hand and effect on the evolution of our species, and that many have tried to slow us down. However, there are also many examples and times in the ancient history of the planet that humanity rose to the occasion of great creativity and a heaven on earth life. Yes, it has been done before, and I believe now that it will be done again. It is just going to take a stronger commitment from more people to allow us to thrive again. Very optimistic here. This is, bringing the history into the forefront, the positive history. What do I mean by thrive? Well, according to the data I collected, there were times when there was no struggle. When improving the intellect and studying the sciences were so highly regarded, some people could think of nothing else. From those studies, civilizations thrived because creativity and technological advances were desired and supported. I feel we are on the brink once again of that level of creativity and advancement that would mark one of the greatest turning points in the history of Earth. If we can break the cycle, or should I say multiple cycles, of accepting things as they are and believing we each have no place, there is a much higher chance that these inventions, ways of living, and ways of ruling the world will become elevated in a few short years. I do see many working on some of these changes and doing their best to roll out new ways as easily as possible. Time will tell. That was the first sitting. Here's the second one. It's okay if you have time to stop. Don't ever feel obligated to listen to me or force yourself. That is not the way this is going to go. Remember, I can see now what you and everyone else might be going through at any given time, as well as what is happening with the earth and humanity at large. So I get it. So she's just easing my frustration that I can't write all the time. When I call her in, I had to take breaks this time. I would just continue to ask yourself to be patient. Oh, that word this year. Let that be your daily mantra. You can see what others have told you about patience this year was absolutely true. Nothing turned out the way you planned or thought. Although I can see that your design project for your friend did turn out just fine. She and her friends are quite impressed. I know that you enjoy living and feeling the perfection in all things, and sometimes it doesn't look like it is happening, but eventually it all works out. Reference to this job I did for a friend of mine for 2021, and it was a little longer and it had multiple things, and I'm going to put that series of videos out with me and Heather, and you'll see the messages that came through for that. It was a very interesting experience and had a lot of highs and some really deep lows, but we did come through, and it's really beautiful. You are living what is happening at the mass consciousness level. People creating dreams, making shifts, turns, unexpected changes, and still coming out on top of it all. Isn't that all you could hope for? As you continue through the next 2 years, you will see many pieces of the larger puzzle coming together, yes, in a new way, but in many ways so much better. You have asked for many years for an easier life where work did not have to be so hard and survival was not only the reason to live. Well, it is all coming true for you and for many around the world. The changes that are in the midst continue to move seemingly at a snail's pace, but not actually. If you look at some of the progress made in business, connecting electronically, and now the changes that will occur in shipping, she's very up to date on this one, folks, you can see there has been steady progress. I usually would not spend time much time on the mundane life, but I want people to see that much of this so-called higher information is starting to have a practical result in the lives of many. This I did not spend time on while I was alive, but now see how important it is that we understand our part of the evolutionary process. Even I had a part to play with all the gathering of information and books published. All of my work can be studied and analyzed for years to come. I left my mark, and I believe many of you are getting the chance to leave yours. That was round 2. Here's round 3. Continuation. Now that we have a handle on the purpose or multiple purposes of this current transition, I think it is time to take a look at the individual power that is given to each of us. Many will not hear this message as clearly as the others, simply because they cannot see their part of the larger human evolutionary plan. If everyone, individual soul, did not have purpose, why would it waste time reincarnating? Put simply, it makes no sense. I wish this could be understood and accepted on a mass scale, although it might take time for someone to find purpose or feel they are in sync with their purpose. It nevertheless is our reason for living. And if you go through her work, a lot of the sessions she did were people asking questions about their purpose and the session bringing that to light. So I don't need to cover that. She covered that in her work. There is no need to get into the infinite number of purposes to be alive. It is just enough to know they exist. The fun starts after we each realize this and start playing with different directions and trying different things, then changing direction again. This is where life adventures get interesting. I will be honest that I got to live out these adventures through the stories that were shared through the thousands of sessions I did. I was fascinated with the wealth of information, but also of that soul's previous life experience or multiple experiences that were shared with me. This intriguing curiosity is what kept me going. I never had a clue what was going to come out of someone, but got to sit on the edge of my seat anticipating something interesting was about to happen. That was my life adventure. I also understood that trying to remember all of these experiences for one person was sometimes overwhelming. Sure, some clients were just as surprised and excited as I was by all of the history and information, but there were also those clients that this was a bit too much and it left them feeling quite uneasy and unsure about the nature of reality. I had to be very considerate of where each person was with their understanding and assist them to understand that they were actually opening themselves up to something so vast that it might take a little time to understand and integrate the information. See, this is what we all go through. Those of us that are receiving information, this person in this incarnation, me or Dolores or her clients, we don't have this on our conscious mind. She's diving into the subconscious and collecting to those groups and light beings and light councils that are bringing the information through. And this is what I do, except I do it directly with these writings. So, she really tries to explain this simply so we can get a handle on what integration is with this information. I might even have told some to simply let it go. Don't dwell or worry about it. If it doesn't mean anything now, then leave it alone and pick it up again in the future when it might make more sense. This is how flexible I tried to help people to be with this information. Again, same thing I'm going through personally. It's very, very similar. Remember, this work or this information came through to help us, humanity, understand its existence and some of its history. It was not always just to help the individual. I was quite aware that many of my clients were doing humanity a service by allowing this history to come back to us. so I could share, write books, and add to the volumes of information that could be needed for humanity to understand its own origins. I did not understand at this level in the very beginning, but I had an inkling I was embarking on something that would open my eyes to much more than I understood at the time. Of course, that is exactly what happened. I learned through each client. I compiled information and started to put some of the story of not only human history, but also the history of the universe together. Even with all my work now out there, I realize there is still so much more. And she said that a lot while she was alive. I say that all the time, and I end my videos with, there is so much more coming, from the Medium by Design. I know this, and this is where her and I are really in sync. We know this never ends. We think we just discovered something fabulous, and then it's like, oh, but there's more. Here's another piece. Oh, but I don't know. And then we go through this, but I don't understand that piece. That's okay. Just sit with it, leave it. You'll get it eventually. And that's how I would say to you guys listening to these videos, this information is not always easy to integrate when you watch the video the first time. This is why I go back and watch my own videos and listen to myself reading to me so that I can integrate more of this information. And she said this in a conference that I saw the video. Dolores Cannon said this, that the integration was important for her, and I know this is true for me too, because it has to be able to come out and be shared and taught in a very cohesive way. And that's not something we can control. We have to allow. And that's people like us that have to talk for a living. We have to allow it to come out in the best and easiest way to be integrated by others. So that's why there's this time lag sometimes of the receiving of the information, the integration, and then the utilizing. Where is this information going to go? Is it going to go to YouTube? Is it going to go into books? Is it going to go to conferences? I don't have all those answers because I'm inspired in the moment. As of today, this is what I'm doing for you guys today. So this is how it works for me, and I believe this is how it worked for Dolores. So she left off with, there is so much more. This is why I keep telling you, Salvatore, to remain open, because even you have a way to go in learning, understanding, and sharing more. Well, that we know that's true. How often do I say I really don't know anything until it comes to me? So she says, keep it up and keep your mind as open as your eyes. I love that. Keep your mind as open as your eyes. Allow yourself to be surprised at what you experience. It can be mind-blowing. So that was 3 short sessions I had with her last week. Since it is Thanksgiving week, I do have a few other videos that are ready to come out. They were done last week also. But on this one, since it is Monday before Thanksgiving, I'll wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And I'm very grateful. I'll start by ending this with, I am very grateful. I'm grateful that I got on here, that I had the impulse, the inspiration, the guidance given to me to do this. I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful for all your responses, your likes, your subscribes. And I had one amazing person, you'll see her in the comments, Ashley, had an amazing experience with her this year, and she gave a little testimony in one of her comments. I can't tell you which video it's on, I don't remember. But she had an amazing triumph this year with her physical body, and I was very happy to be part of that. So this is really fun for me to have this YouTube channel because it connects with all new people, and I'm sure a lot of people doing YouTube would say the same thing. You don't know who you're going to meet here. So I am grateful for this. This is another part of my life experience, my exploration, as Dolores would say. So again, continue if you can, if you feel called, to be supportive by liking, subscribing. There is a PayPal button. Please feel free if you're guided, you feel inspired. I would love it. It's the holiday season. Some work slows down. I don't usually do any design projects, so we finished Heather's, and right now it's very quiet. So With that, I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope you gain something great from these messages, especially this one from Dolores. And remember, Dolores and I were telling you there is much more to come, and in this case, from the Medium by Design.